Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So today we have a new addition for our workshop. We have a Bestarc plasma cutter. Now this was given to me by Bestarc to do a video on and trial, and it worked out quite good because it was one of the items I was planning to buy for the shop in the not too distant future. So let's have a look and see what we're in for here. Now, they did say they were going to send a 7th generation machine, but this is a 3rd generation. I think there was a delay or something on the 7th generations before the next batch was out or something like that. And, well, let's have a look. So everything's come very well packaged, as a lot of the stuff does. Made in China. Let's get her out the box and see what we're dealing with here. Another box, so this will have all the bits that go with it, so we'll have a look into this in a sec. Nice lightweight machine. So here it is in all its glory. Bestarc BTC 500 DP Gen 3 plasma cutter. Now, when they contacted me about this item and I had a look at it, I noted that it is not an Australian plug. So I said, well, send it anyway and I'll get the plug changed here. So that's something, if you're in Australia or New Zealand, the plugs you'll have to get changed. So unless the later ones they've got some sort of an adapter. They did have an adapter advertised for this one, but it's not for this country. So let's see what we got in the other box with the attachments, and I'll get this plug changed. So in Australia here and also New Zealand, our plugs are of this description here, like this. This is a 15 amp plug, and the 10 amp plugs have a slightly smaller earth pin on it. So the machine came with this configuration here. You could probably get some sort of an adapter from this to this, but I'm not going to worry. So I'm not sure which country has plugs like this. Certainly not here down under. So we'll get this rectified and move on. So in the box we have it's your air line for the air supply, earth clamp and lead, I don't know how it will go with the plasma. It should be alright, but if it was a welding one it would be a bit on the thin side. Consumables, nozzles, thread tape, tips. Here we are. This is this adapter. I said some come with an adapter, but still not the Australian variety. So anyway, so we have the torch, the business end, feels quite comfortable. We'll coil this out and see how long it is. It's got to be at least 1, 2, it's got to be at least 4 meters. And the instructions. So measuring up the cord where the gun is, it is actually 4 metre lead on it. So that's that one sorted. Now, with regards to the power cord, I'm pretty sure that this is a 220 volt American and 110 volt American. So I'm not sure what sort of amperage they run over in the States for their 220 volt, whether it's 13 amp or what options they have. Here in Australia, our standard power is 10 amps for like single phase welding machines and things like that. Generally you'll find them with a 15 amp plug. So that's what I thought we'd just need for this. However, when the electrical shop where I take all my work to get the plug changed over, read through the instructions and specifications, and says no way, this needs to be running on a 20 amp circuit. So we now have a new lead on it. I got them to put a longer lead on it and an Australian 20 amp plug. So I've upgraded a wall socket behind me. They've also used a heavier cable. This is a 4mm cable, and the one supplied with the machine is a 3.31mm cable. So, which, I mean, this probably was alright, would have been alright, but I'm not an electrician. Over here in Australia, you have to be a licensed electrician to carry out electrical modifications like this. Right, so that's the power sorted out. What we have to do before we can fire the machine up is, it does come supplied with one style of air fitting that I'm not familiar with. I don't know, it's a bit like a Ryco series fitting. Generally over here our common one is a Nitto fitting, so we'll get that screwed in. Does have an inbuilt water trap on the rear of the machine, so that's one thing you don't want with a plasma cutter, is moisture in the air. You want dry air. I'm led to believe it'll take out your consumables in no time whatsoever. So let's get the air hooked up, power hooked up, and we'll do some test cuts. Now they do supply a roll of thread tape. Right, that's our air fitting taken care of. So looking at the torch, it does seem to be, well, it's an AG60P torch, which from what I've seen does appear to be pretty common. So the consumables, the end just screws off here. You have this cone on the end. That just unscrews, and the tip, it's not unlike a small MIG welding torch tip. And it just unscrews as well. Easy as that. Right. So yeah, basically straight out the box it appears that everything you need to power the machine up and start cutting is in the box. So I'm only going to be running this off a small air compressor, 95 litre a minute air compressor. We'll just see how it goes. If the compressor keeps cutting in every 5 minutes, then we'll switch up to a bigger compressor. But yeah, air line straight in the back. So the connections for the machine. Got the main one here. This is the air line going to the torch. Then you've got your switch for your gun. And your wire for the pilot arc. It's going to go under. Okay, that's the torch connected, and then the other port on the top here for the earth lead. Just like that. Right. So yeah, close up. So we have the air line, the torch switch, the pilot arc wire, and the earth. So the manual that comes with the machine, I suppose generally it's not too bad as far as Chinese manuals go. We will be using their recommended parameters when we do our test cuts. So on 220 volts, and it gives you their air pressures and amperage to set the machine on. So we'll go through those. This only takes you up to maximum 50 amps and 12 millimeter. However, we're going to exceed that. We're going to be trying to see how it goes on some 16 millimeter, maybe some 20 millimeter, 3/4 of an inch as well. We'll see how we go. Input current for the machine, 15 to 40 amps on 220 volts. So yeah, that's interesting. Right, enough of that. Let's plug her in. Boom. On off switch at the rear. I don't know why they wouldn't put that at the front. So controls are pretty simple on this. So up the top here we've got air and cut. So if you just want to blow air through the torch, and you can also use that while you adjust your regulator. Go back on the cut. So down the bottom here you've got 2T, 4T and PT. So it's just like a TIG welding torch. So 2T, hold the trigger on to cut. 4T, hold the trigger on and then let go of it. It'll keep cutting. And then when you want to stop cutting, just hold the trigger on again and let go of it again. It'll stop cutting. The bottom one here, PT, brings up here. That's post time. So that's the time the air will continue to blow through the torch to cool down the tip. Just bring it back a bit. So we're on 8. I'll set it to 5 seconds and And of course the compressor cuts in. So that blew air through the torch for 5 seconds to cool down the consumables, the tip. So we'll bring that back up. 8 seconds seems to be a bit fairly common. Depends on if you're cutting thin material, you can turn it down. If you're cutting thicker material, you want to turn it up a bit. So we'll set the machine now, looking by their recommendations. So we'll cut some 6mm steel first. So we want to be 40 to 50 psi on the air. So we need to turn that down a bit. Oh no, that was alright, it was on 40. And we should be on, recommends 30 amps. This will go up to 50 amps. It's flat out. So we'll drop it back to their recommendations and we'll try a cut on 6mm steel. Okay, I've just got a bit of, I've got a lot of victims there to try. Some different materials. We just got a piece of 6mm mild steel flat bar. So we're going to be running through on 30 amps with, what was our air set at? Was 40 psi. 40 to 50 psi they say. We'll go to 45 mid-range, keep it on 30 amps, and we'll just take a cut through and see what happens. Well, okay, it hesitated there for a bit and I think we could probably up the amperage. Very nice cut, clean cut, except for where it hesitated. Slag comes off easy and a nice, it's only barely warm, nice crisp edge. So let's turn the amperage up a bit and we'll go again, we'll do another. So we'll turn the amps up, we'll go 35 amps and we'll keep the same 45 psi air pressure. That cut really well then, it cut a hell of a lot better. No problem removing the slag. It's a bit warm to the touch. Still a very nice cut. Okay, that's 6mm mild steel, 35 amps, no problem. We've got a bit of 6mm, slightly rusty Bestarc strip here. To us in Australia it's Bestarc, I guess if you're in the United States it's also known as AR. Earth on through the rust, so we'll just see what happens. Okay, I'll just keep turning the camera off for a minute while the compressor cut does its thing. So yeah, that was Bestarc plate. Absolutely beautiful cut. Slag comes off easy, no problem through the rust. Nice crisp edges as well. Right, that's the 6mm. Bit of 8mm mild steel. I'm just using this steel block to hold the plate and also as a guide for the torch. So 8mm, we might bring it up to 40 amps. I feel, what does their recommendation say? Let's have a look in the book. Well, theirs jumps from 6 to 10mm, so they've got it set on 40 amps for 10mm. So we'll leave it on 40 amps, 50 to 60 psi. So we could probably come up another 5 psi. We'll come up to 55 psi on 40 amps. 8mm mild steel, and that's 120 millimeters. 130mm cut. The other piece we cut, the second one, the Bestarc, was 90mm, and that first bit of flat bar was 65mm wide. So what did we say this was? 130, and it's 8mm mild steel flat bar. Right. I cut that very well. Very slight angle, but that was me, the way I was holding the torch. Slag comes off beautiful, and once again, beautiful cut, nice square edges. So, that was on 40 amps, and I sort of feel it only just did it, but it did it very well. So we've got a bit of rusty 10mm. Now, according to their settings, should be on 40, which we are. I feel we need to go higher. I'll just reposition that a little bit, make it a bit more comfortable for me. Right, so 45 amps, we'll give it a crack. Rusty mild steel, 10mm thick, and I think it was, what were we, 75mm. So like a bit of 3 by 3/8 flat bar. No problem whatsoever. Mildly warm, as you'd expect. Still a nice cut. No problem. Now, one thing I did notice just then, it's a nice cut, but it does have a very slight angle on it. So I was just looking at the torch. I don't think this wire thing on the bottom, this guide, is sitting quite square. So we just might need to tweak that a little bit. Okay, we'll try that. So next up, let's max the machine out. 12 millimeters is its maximum well, its advertised maximum. We'll make sure we can get our torch in. Just cut a little bit more. I'm going to need a longer guide. So this is 12 millimeter by 200 millimeters wide. So we'll take this, max the machine out at 50 amps. We'll probably bring our air up. They say it's between 60 and 70 psi, so we'll just adjust our air pressure. We'll bring it up to 70 psi. And the machine's maxed out on 50 amps. Alright. Might zoom you in a bit closer for this one. Well, as you can see, it didn't like that, but we'll give it another try. Well, there you go. Oh, hang on. My fault. Helps if you put the earth on. Let's try again. Well, there you go. That was no problem whatsoever, but you do have to remember to put the earth clamp on. So that was 12 millimeter as advertised. It would cut no problem. Very nice cut too, still nice crisp edges, beautiful. So I went digging around, I found a piece of 16mm, a 5/8 by 150 wide. So we'll see how it tackles this. We'll leave our air the same, was on we'll bring it up to 75. Yeah, so our air's up on 75. And our amps are maxed out on 50 amps. There we go. So that was 16mm, 150mm, 16mm thick, 150mm wide. A bit warm. See how the slag comes off. We'll try this bit. No problem. Where are we? Well, seeing it did that with these, we'll go to our 3/4. We'll just cut the end off this. It's going to be a 90mm cut. 3/4 inch mild steel plate. And I feel we need to just bump this air pressure up more. So we're on their maximum. Well, we're cutting over what they say this machine will cut. So their maximum is 12mm. So we've just done 150mm cut on 16mm. So now we'll go 19mm. We'll check our air, which will be we'll bring our air up to 80 psi. Okay. Make sure the camera's on. I doubt we'll get through this, but hey, you never know. Well, that got through that, only just. Did you see the way the arc was starting to come more out of an angle there? The cut, the sparks. It was a bit difficult to break the piece off because it was hanging up on one corner where I miscut. But you can see where it likes to cut, and when we've gone past the maximum that it likes. But it did it. I reckon you can cut stainless steel. I think we'll turn our air back down. We'll come back down to 70 psi. And because it's 12 millimeters, we'll stay on 50 amps. So you can see now the power upgrade, that bigger plug that I put on the machine, was well worth it. How many people would have been blowing circuit breakers left, right and centre with this amount of cutting in this short space of time? So stainless steel, 12 millimeter thick by 100 millimeters wide. So yeah, that was no problem. I should have had my earth lead a bit, not quite in the path of the sparks. Nice clean edges. Warm to the touch. So I reckon you can do thin stuff. Well, we know it can do thin stuff, so there's not much point on a bit of sheet metal like this, is there? But we'll give it a quick zap across. I think we'll turn our amperage, we'll knock it back to 20, and we'll knock our air, what's their minimum here? We'll knock our air back down to 40 psi. It's about a bit of 1.2 millimeter stainless steel. Well, that went through that like a hot knife through butter. The cut's a bit wobbly, but that's because I didn't have a guide and my travel speed was quite high. In fact, my cut's very wobbly. But if you had a guide, that would cut very nice. So stainless steel, no problem. Bit of aluminium. We'll go with this bit. It's a bit of aluminium checker plate. It's 4mm thick. We'll keep the settings, well, we'll bring it up 25 amps. Okay. Excuse me. You can keep the travel speed pretty high with aluminium. Oop. Crisp cut on the top, but yeah, with aluminium, as to be expected, I guess. Still, it cut it, no problem. So I think let's close out our cutting tests with one more cut with the 16mm by 150 plate, mild steel plate. So you can hear the cooling fan running on the machine, and of course I was wearing a darkened face shield, as you should do with this sort of thing. The lead still cold to the touch, so that's the advantage of having a decent power circuit and not trying to run these things on midget standard plug. So I found the torch very comfortable to operate. Everything seemed to stand up. What I don't like is the wire guide. I might just do a bit of work on straightening that out a bit more to level it up. It's just slightly kicking off to one side. It should be sort of around a bit more for a squarer cut. So it's just this wire needs a bit of tweaking. So all in all, I think it's a really good machine. Well, okay, we cut the 3/4. And it only just got through it. We've got the bit of 25mm sitting there, so let's just give it a final crack. We'll just see if it'll knock the end off this. I don't think it will, but let's have a crack. Well, we reached its limitations. And as you can see, as to be expected, it won't cut 25 mil. So that's its limitations. 3/4 19 mil plate, which is pretty good going, as the machine's only advertised to cut 12 millimeter. So 3/4 19 mil is its max. As soon as you see sparks coming back up like this was, you're going to damage your consumables. Plus you've got sparks going all over the place where you don't really want them. So there you have it. Well, there you go. It appears to be a bit of a goer, this one. Quite the little pocket rocket, providing you have an ample power source to run these type of machines. So, as far as consumables go, I found them online readily available. I'd like to check with my local welding stores that I use and see if they carry one. Like an AG60P torch, people say that these are a common style of torch. So at the end of the day, I looked up this machine on Amazon this morning, and Australian dollars is $342. There is some promotional material, or some links, Amazon, Instagram and TikTok, that Bestarc asked if I could put in the description, which I have done. So if anyone came and asked me about single phase plasma cutters for some advice about what to get, well, this is the only single phase plasma cutter that I've ever used. So, and this performed flawlessly. It was absolutely perfect. Okay, I did have to upgrade the power, but then that enabled me to push this machine and to be able to use this machine into the future to its full capabilities. So there we have it. So anyway, cheers, hope you enjoyed it or got something out of it, or got to see what these things can do without blowing breakers. So cheers, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later.